Hey, good evening. I'm really happy to have you here. My name is Daniel. I was a professional opera singer and beatboxer, and tonight we're going to be listening to YuGang and Dimash perform Drunken, Concubine and Diva Dance. So I recently did Dimash's version of Diva Dance, and the comments on that were, you have to react to this duet. It's such an amazing duet, and here I am doing it. I've never heard of the other artist that Dimash is performing with. This will be an exciting experience listening to this artist for the first time, and I don't know what to expect. I haven't heard Drunken Concubine, I don't think, before. I'm not really that great with song titles, so I might have heard it, but I don't know until I listen to it. So I'm just really excited to jump into this, and I hope you are as well. So without any further delay, let's just jump into it.
有请李玉刚、李马西演绎《一带一路》上的燃情共鸣。
那一年的雪花飘落，野花开着口。那一年的花径却旁留下太多愁。 我要说谁是谁非，感情错与对，这场梦里与你一起再摧毁。
青春缠云扫过，是你给我的礼物。一场你几番轮回，为你歌舞。千门关是你对我深深的思念，包围破晓。 愿为真爱温暖红颜。
Oh, it's so piercing. Oh. That's just how the video ends, I guess. Okay, where to begin on this? What a unique performance. YuGang has a very lyric voice. It's very light, very delicate, but also is very piercing. It's very direct and has a silent power underneath it. And I really appreciate that. And Dimash and YuGang's harmonies were very foundational, very solid, and I loved that. Their vibratos matched very wonderfully, and I really dig that too. But having the contrast, they almost serve as foils to each other, to be honest. Because with Dimash, you get this very broad, very open sound, and with YuGang, you get this very light and piercing sound. So it was really interesting hearing their duets when they're singing together, where their harmonies are really solid, but because their voice types are so polarizing, it feels so bizarre to me. Not in any negative way, it's just very bizarre. So that's why I think this duet is so unique. And the moment that both of them rise up out of their chairs, it immediately gave me Michael Jackson's Slave to the Rhythm vibes. Just having this intense, powerful charisma, just immediately standing up and walking towards the audience. You just feel that presence almost overwhelming you. It's really just quite dazzling in that way. There are some things that I really want to pick apart a little bit more and hear again so I can solidify some of my opinions and perspectives. So let's just jump into the analysis.
有请李玉刚、迪玛希演绎《一带一路》上的燃情共鸣。
那一年的雪花飘落，野花低着头。
I love how light Dimash is here in this beginning section. He still has a nice foundational support, but he's approaching it in this lovely mezzo piano, very wave-like style where it's and it's not really it's just got this nice flow to it. It doesn't really change drastically in its dynamic, but it doesn't need to. The beginning of the piece is supposed to be small and concentrated, showing that there's plenty of room for growth, plenty of room for potential, but just having it be so concentrated in this gentle opening, you can feel that there's a silent intensity boiling just in this first introduction of the piece. And we've yet to even hear the other performer even sing yet, so we know that there's so much more about to happen in this piece, and I already really appreciate that Dimash he doesn't give hardly anything away, but it still sets the tone, it sets the stage, and I really dig that. Also, look at the way that he's sitting. It's really important to note this, where he looks very relaxed, but if you look at his back, he's not really slouched in his chair. His back, his spine is still straight. Both of his feet are planted on the floor. They're not crossed. And that's really important when singing while sitting. I remember when I was in university, our choir director, he was a very brilliant man, but he was also very intense and called anyone out that didn't follow his vision for the choir. So if someone was sitting with their back straight, back away from the back of the chair, but their feet were crossed, he would stop the rehearsal, call them out saying, uncross your feet. And the reason for this is when you breathe while standing, the mental image one would normally have is the idea that singing is a full body experience. When you breathe, yes, you're breathing and you're expanding your diaphragm and all of that stuff, but the mental image is that charges your legs, expands your diaphragm, resonates in your chest, passes through your larynx and out through your mask. And that kind of mental imagery invigorates your entire body. It's a full body experience because when you visualize it that way, you're subconsciously giving your body more power in your voice. Essentially going Super Saiyan with your voice, just in the idea that, yes, you could think of all of these different things as separate, but when you allow your entire body to become one, essentially, and I don't mean for this to get really metaphysical, but when you conceptualize singing as a full body experience, you have access to more control over your body that you didn't think you had to begin with. So oftentimes when I'm with a student and they're too busy focusing on breathing through their diaphragm, not through their chest, and they're just trying to sing the notes, I notice that a lot of those notes are very choppy, and the musical cadence itself feels segregated within itself, in the idea that there are random breaths interspersed throughout the cadence, or the consonants don't connect well with each other, or different things like that. So it's really important to realize that, especially when sitting, when you've now automatically restricted some of that energy that comes with singing while standing, you need to make sure that your body is in a really good sitting position. But you also don't want to make the audience feel like you're very tight and stiff. So it's okay to lean just a little bit to provide a little bit more of that subconscious cue that, yes, this is a very relaxed performance, but in actuality, his body is still very straight. His feet are connected onto the floor, allowing for that invigoration of energy through his legs. And you don't see any tension in his body at all, allowing the breath to flow freely through the entirety of his body to invigorate his breath. And because Dimash is already a very accomplished vocalist, he has complete control over his voice and complete control over his dynamic and how he chooses to spin his vibrato or his breath. And everything is just so controlled and precise, yet he's making this appearance that it is very relaxed and a little nonchalant. And I really do appreciate that kind of energy. It lets the audience feel relaxed in his music while he himself is still having total control over everything that's happening in regard to his voice. And I really, really love that from a performance perspective.
那一年的花径却旁留下太多愁。我要说谁是谁非，感情错与对。只剩我你与你一起再摧毁。
His consonants are so clean, and his diction is so wonderful here. It sounds like he's singing Chinese. I'm not completely sure on that, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but it does sound like he's singing Chinese here. And even though there's a translation, just in terms of his diction and just in terms of the way that he's connecting each individual word and cadence together, it feels so smooth and the piece is just flowing so intrinsically. And this is what I was meaning by jaggedness before, or not being able to connect things well. Just the fact that he does have this total control, it really does feel like he's penning this beautifully, and it's just so fluid. Everything is connecting with each other. Nothing feels choppy. It's just one consistent melodic phrase. Just audibly, it's just very satisfying. Yeah, and in comparison to Dimash, where it was la da, we have da 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 da, where it's considerably lighter. It's not choppy by any means, but because of that lightness, it feels like it's flying in comparison to Dimash's really warm, grounding feeling. And I love this contrast. This is what I meant earlier by both of them being foils to each other. Having this contrast makes this performance very rich and dynamic. Oh, lovely transition to his head voice. Yeah, just touching up there. Oh, it's so lovely. Wonderful technique there. Yeah. Oh, I love that growth. Yeah. Yeah. He needs to be mic'd because his voice is so light and so delicate, but because he is, and you can hear the intricacies in his performance style, it's so lovely, and it complements Dimash very well, or Dimash complements him very well. Regardless, it works very well. They both complement each other very well. So this particular section I actually enjoy a lot, and it's not because Dimash is doing something that we don't typically hear him do a lot, but it's more because adding this kind of demonic sound creates an untapped realm that nobody was expecting in this kind of performance. And the reason I'm not so thrown off by this kind of sound is because this sound is utilized a lot in beatboxing. This kind of that kind of direct and very breathy, deep, demonic sound. I think a beatboxer that utilizes this sound very well would be Azel, for example. Azel from Italy. His song Demeth exemplifies that kind of demonic voice. But overall, coming back to the original point, I'm sorry I got sidetracked. I think this particular section adds even more richness to the piece in and of itself. They could have easily transitioned from that first section into the Diva dance just through a musical interlude, but instead they have this very dark and demonic feeling that is sultry yet deceptive. It's very reminiscent of what the devil is supposed to reflect, which is deception. It's, oh wow, I feel very warm and very close, and I love this feeling of seduction. But then when you get too close, you get burned, or you've already fallen into the trap. And that's the idea of this, where you get too close to the sound and the sound is already gone. You're just so captivated by what just happened that we're now in this new section of the piece. And I really love utilizing that kind of demonic sound as a transition because it does reflect what that sound is supposed to be, which is don't get too close, otherwise in this case, you'll just never see it again. But it's the idea of don't get too close or you'll get burned. And I love the utilization of that sound here. It's really well chosen. Yeah, very Michael Jackson energy there. The way he transitions through these notes is very smooth, but it's also so forward and a little bit nasal. He's not scrunching his face as much, but the sound is still very directed through the bridge of his nose, through the center of his mask. So to have this kind of very direct sound, especially after having something as broad and as robust as that demonic sound, again, really great contrast, really great foils to each other here. Beautiful in the way that he approached those higher notes. And in his vibrato at the end, he just made it a straight tone and allowed his breath to spin at the end. Really well executed. Yeah, and then all of a sudden with Dimash, you get this more rounded sound and it feels much more open than his counterpart. So having these two contrasting styles of singing and the way that they approach it is really captivating and very interesting to hear. It constantly keeps you engaged with the music. Even though they're not singing any words here, you're just engaged with their sound and the contrasting styles, and I love that. Yeah, and I already commented on this in Dimash's rendition of the Diva dance, but just the way that he just touches these notes, and it's just so delicate, yet he gives the note its full length integrity of ba, ba, ba. They're just flashes of light or scintillates, and he's just dead center in the middle of the pitch, and he allows each note to springboard into the next one, and it's just this perfect blend of marcato and staccato where it is very crisp and very exact, but it's rounded like a marcato where it's just very bouncy, very buoyant, and it's just using each note to bounce into the next. And his phrasing here, especially on these very tight and precise notes, are really well executed. And just the way he grew into that last one. Bum, bum, bum. Yeah, dude, love that. Yeah, I love that Dimash is just opening himself up there, just taking in his counterpart's music. It's really great. And you can hear the approach in the way that both of them engage with this kind of music, where Dimash is very round and very bouncy, where YuGang is still very direct in his sound and it's very piercing, but it also maintains that level of delicacy that Dimash has. They share a couple of similarities while remaining as their own unique individual artists, and I really dig that. They're not trying to copy each other. They're fully engaging with their own styles of music, but complementing each other very well. Okay, I think this note is insanely impressive. Insanely impressive. And the fact that he has control over it and is even able to produce that sound, let alone have confidence that he can execute it well in the middle of a performance, is mind-bogglingly insane. I need to drive that home. That being said, I don't understand why it's in the piece, aside from just showing off vocal talent. And what I mean by that is, yes, Dimash is already a very impressive artist, but I think everybody in the audience and everybody at home is already aware of this and just loves his voice naturally. So for him to execute something like this, it's mind-blowing and it gives us a deeper appreciation for his vocal skill. But if we're just listening to the piece as a piece, I would have preferred him singing a note that actually fits better in the piece, that's more vocalized and flows better with the piece, instead of having something that's more or less just here to show off his skill. When I listen to music, I want to engage with both the artist performing the music and the music itself. And I want there to be a strong blend of both throughout the entirety of the performance. If I'm listening to, say, a jazz band, and I'm getting these really chill, very smooth vibes with beautiful little intricacies from every instrument and musician, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I just get this really incredible drum solo that's really rapid and just picks up the piece that just kind of comes out of nowhere and then flows back into this chilled groove. I would think that that drum solo is awesome, and there's a lot of awesome technique that goes into it, but it feels a little out of place for the music that I'm listening to. And I kind of get that feeling from this particular note, where I can really appreciate what Dimash is doing here. And to be honest, I don't think I've heard any vocalist personally execute that note while on stage, that whistle tone. And a whistle tone is typically performed by the absolute constricting of your vocal cords and allowing this breath to squeeze through your larynx, creating this very high-pitched, breathy sound. And instead of using your lips to restrict airflow, you're using your larynx, your vocal cords, and opening your mouth as big as possible to allow any sound, any breath that is coming through to be as big as possible. And it's very lovely, and the way he executes it, again, is amazing. And I haven't heard anybody do this before. It's really amazing. I just don't think it fits the music very well, and it kind of takes me out of the music and just makes me focus on Dimash and his technique. And if I'm listening to music, I really want to be enveloped by both the artist and the music. So that's my only criticism on that. But again, the way he executes this tone is shocking. And it's really amazing how he does this. I love these. Just this very light, very marcato, very bouncy, and then just having these ebbs and flows from YuGang here. It's two contrasting vocal lines that just create this ultimate richness in the music, and I love that, dude. Love it, love it, love it. Love it. It's so bizarre how they're harmonizing so well when their voices are so different, but it's so great. I love the fact that they're harmonizing well. Yeah. Oh, that passaggio work, or that break in their voice. I don't do a lot of passaggio work, so I'm not really that skilled in it, but having that level of control, it's so good, dude. Especially just to provide vocal accents within a cadence. Yes. Oh, that vowel manipulation, going from that open ah to o. Like, watch Dimash again. Oh. Yeah, and also look at their microphone technique. Yes, that is an actual thing, especially when performing live, where if you know your sound is quieter or more delicate and it requires a great deal of concentration and physical execution, then one, it depends on the way that you hold the mic, whether you want the sound to be more reverberated and more intense, then you would hold the mic a little bit closer towards the bulb of it, if you will, and keep that close. But in this case, it's not about the reverberation effect, but it is about making sure that the note is as powerful as Dimash. So he's holding the mic close, but holding it on the neck and making sure that it's still very close to him. Whereas Dimash is holding it a little bit down and a little bit farther away because his notes are considerably more powerful and he knows that he's still going to be singing directly into it in this particular area. But he wants the sound to still have the same volume, the same dynamic as his counterpart. And when it's executed, it does. And that takes a good amount of rehearsing with your counterpart for both of them to say, okay, we need this harmony to come through the speakers at the same volume for both of us. If Dimash was holding it at the same distance that YuGang here is, then Dimash would heavily overpower him. So it's really great that they're keeping this in mind as they're performing. Yeah, and just the way that they taper off at the end, really, really well done. The ending of the video feels a little too abrupt for me. I would have loved to have stewed in that a little bit more, but honestly, I'm not complaining. That was an exceptional performance. Really great job, both of them. I really, really digged that. Plus, the pieces just meshed very well together, and the execution of it was stunning. Thank y'all so much for watching this video. If y'all liked it, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. And if you didn't like it, please leave a dislike and let me know why in the comments below. I do read all of the comments, even if I may not heart or reply to all of them, so please just know that your comments do not go unnoticed, and I do take them into consideration as I make future videos. Due to computer issues and copyright issues, I've been struggling with Patreon recently, but I'm still uploading content as fast as I can, and hopefully it should launch within the next couple of weeks. I really appreciate your patience as I continue to navigate these issues. My live streams are currently Thursdays at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, so if you guys would like to stop by and say hey or ask any questions about myself or the channel, I would absolutely love to be there for you guys. I want to take this time to really appreciate all of you guys for being here and watching these videos. It really does mean a lot to me, so for all of you watching right now, thank you so much, and I can't wait to see all of you in the next video. Have a great rest of your evening, everyone.